my period of skating was from when I was like 15 till I was 18. And then I just sort of got out of it. I got out of it because all the little shitheads took over the ditches. All these little fucking teeny bopper kids, like types and shit, and all thought that they were cooler and shit. And you'd show up there and you weren't friends with anybody. And I was always a loner. I always went to shows alone, went to the ditches alone, went to the ramps alone. And you show up with crowds like that. They used to skate this one ditch down off Pan American, and it was where two ditches came together, and so you had like a Y shape to it, and you could do fucking hops over that, and it wasn't a conducive environment to a like a solo loner type. Whereas before that, in the mid '80s, I could show up at Morris Ditch and start skating. Nobody'd bother me, and that's how I became friends with a lot of those people. Kevin Crookshank, the bass player for Jerry's Kids, he had a ramp about a mile away from the Morris Ditch. He didn't. He was okay with me going over there in the afternoons, and he'd just reach over the gate and fucking go back there. And he didn't let everybody in the afternoon because he didn't want like all sorts of crazy shit going on because his parents were there. He was adopted and he took real good care of his parents. And but he knew that I was real quiet, and I would just go out there and just skate by myself, and then I'd get up on the platform, and I did a lot of photography back then, and I would just wait for everybody to show up. Everyone else would show up after about 5 o'clock, and so like when all the fucking little youngsters took over, and they were all like, that's when like everybody had to wear Jimmy's clothes and fucking shit like that, and ride a Vision fucking skateboard that had the name of that one dude that fucking murdered his girlfriend's fucking mate. And then cut her up and put her in a surfboard bag and buried her out in the fucking desert. I think he's still in prison. I think he went to prison for life. Dwayne something. Those are actually collectible skateboards from Vision. Yeah,
Really?
by this dude Dwayne something. I forget his fucking name. But yeah,
For
you
the
had to be
wrong
part of that
reasons.
crowd that wore the fucking goofy baggy ass Jimmy's pants and fucking and that was also when like the frat boy punk rock took over with like DI and shit like that. And don't get me wrong, DI is a great band. I love their music, but it was because their music was like palatable to everyone. So like the Ramones, they were like the punk rock boy band like the Ramones were, and so like all these fucking little frat boys started getting into punk rock because of bands like DI, and then because of that they started listening to Social Distortion, and if they listened to Social Distortion, then now they were like real punk rockers. And like, dude, fuck you guys. You guys live in a fucking frat house. Like, literally, that was like a frat crowd. And yeah, I just lost my taste for it. It wasn't like the old days. I got to see Steve Caballero skate Kevin's ramp after his band. He was in a band called The Faction, and they played one night. We had a club. It was actually in an apartment on top of a gay bar at Central in Wyoming, and the gay bar was called Fox's Booze and Cruise.
Yeah.
And upstairs from that was just like this cool ass apartment. And we had shows there all summer one summer, and the Faction played, and after the show, fucking, we dragged cab up to Kevin's ramp, and yeah, that was a fucking pretty magical experience seeing cab fucking just blow airs out of that fucking ramp. Um, that was a fun place too. But yeah, so I mean, the skating thing was sort of big for me for a period. Um, One of the things that killed it for me was when I was 17. Did the summer fucking family trip out to San Diego, and I went there with my friend Scooter's family, and me and Scooter talked his dad into taking us up to Del Mar Skate Ranch, which I think it got torn down in like 1988, 1989. But it was one of the last original skate parks from the 70s, Del Mar and Upland. And yeah, we went and skated there in the afternoon. And then it just so turned out that the next day there was a pro-am competition. So all the pros showed up that afternoon to fucking practice for the next day. And I watched all these dudes, fucking JC, something Stedman, the fucking black dude is fucking amazing. The guy on my Zorlak board, Craig Robinson, he was there. Uh, and just like all the top pro skaters were there just to warm up for the next day. And I just realized that, nah, I wasn't shit. And
That's a
I would
disheartening
I would
experience.
never, ever, ever get to be anywhere higher than not shit in the skateboarding world. No, dude, no, these guys skated like their boards were attached to their bodies. Whereas all the rest of us, people like me, skateboard like the board is something we're fighting with.
That's a good way to put it.
And yeah, and just watching the way those guys skated, then yeah, there's no way that I would get there. And so yeah, that was just a period in my life, and that did have that skating era did have a lot to do with the punk rock era. And the punk rock era sort of ended when all these little fucking janky kids in their Jimmy's fucking baggy pants showed up. I'm still friends with one of them, and he still skates, and he's actually, at least last year, he was a snowboard instructor in outside of Tokyo. 'Cause- yeah, because
Ooh.
he's stuck with it. He was one of the Jimmy's kids. I remember fucking me and him. We were hanging out one day and we were skating, and then we found out there were some parties, and so we're driving around and we're stoned as fuck, man. And we're driving through these neighborhoods, and some dude backed out of his driveway, and we drove to avoid running into this guy. We drove into somebody's yard and fucking ran into their tree, and then that dude took off and drove off. And what the fuck? The dude's name is Darren, I think. I can't get over to Facebook because I'll lose you again. But yeah, he got out and he's all yelling at the cars that's driving down the street. I'm like, dude, get the fuck in the car. We need to get out of this front yard. And so he gets back in the car and we get out of the fucking front yard and drive on. And we get to the party. And at this party, see, this is how fucking shit pops up in my head. At this party, the owners of the house had this dog that loved to drink. And everyone at the party just thought it was the funniest thing to just keep pouring beer in this dog's bowl. And the
Oh,
fucking dog couldn't even walk, man. He's falling over and shit. And yeah, that was about. Oh, and then there was the skate comp at Skate City when they were at Lomas and Carlisle, or Lomas, Carlisle, and Monte Vista come together, and they blocked off the whole street and did this whole skate comp. And something happened, and I'm pretty sure I started it, but they borrowed a car from one of the junkyards so that people could jump on it and shit and do their tricks off of it. And when the competition ended, I won't say that I was the first one to break the windshield on the car, but I think that I was. And then after that, everyone just went ape shit on their car with their skateboards. And the dude that fucking people were like, dude, owner of Skate City had to pay for that car. Dude, it was a fucking $300 car, man. What the fuck? And yeah,
probably
yeah,
fun.
after that, like I think I tried standing on a skateboard even when I was like 20, and I couldn't keep my balance. So I was just like, yeah, that's. But yeah, that's.
I didn't even know there was a younger generation of skaters and punk rockers. I thought that your generation was it, you
Well,
know,
no, there
uh,
was a scene that actually.
came after.
Well, there's a scene that actually started the Albuquerque scene, and they were way older. And they were like the New York Dolls and Ramones sort of scene from the 70s. And I'm still friends with a couple of those. One of them just died recently. Well, not recently, about 5 years ago. And he was like basically created the hardcore scene in Albuquerque. His name was John Hardy, and he moved from DC, from when DC was in its heyday, and he basically started up the hardcore scene in Albuquerque, booked
Okay.
shows for everybody. But there's a whole bunch of older people just like him. He's like 4 or 5 years older than me. One of them, her name is Dee Dee Wigley. She played in one of the punk rock bands called Sangre de Puerco. And when I was like 16, she was like 26 or 28. She already had a master's degree at that point. And that was actually around the time that fucking Mark Maron was running around. And I got a funny story where I think I met him. But anyway, so like that was the whole fucking, that was how like the Albuquerque scene was when I first got into it. There was this whole older crowd from the 70s that from the 70s, what they call punk rock scene, but I don't really call it punk rock. I call it fucking junkie rock or some shit. That carried over, and and they just became part of the early 80s Albuquerque scene. But just like with me getting pissed off at the little fucking kids showing up at the skate ditches in their jimmies, these older people got pissed off at all these younger punk rock kids showing up, and they just started moving to other neighborhoods or leaving town, and they were just like, yeah, our time is over with here, and fuck you guys, we hate you guys, because they really,
You're pushed
yeah, they
out.
really did,
They really did?
yeah, and yeah, and we sort of took over the whole thing, and like I said, I was always a loner, so I didn't have like one side or the other in these crowds, and so,
Was the hard
huh?
when the hardcore came in, was that just offensive to the older
Well,
group?
like Dee Dee and John Hardy, and also Mike Rose from Jerry's Kids. He was the other guitarist in Jerry's Kids. They played in that band Sangre de Puerco, and then they played in a couple other bands afterwards. Um, and they still kept up with the hardcore thing. So it wasn't a matter of the music; it was a matter of them not wanting to deal with shithead teenage punk rock kids.
Yeah.
They were all in their late
Yeah.
20s and shit, and
Yeah.
they'll tell you stories about the older women who liked the younger punk rock chicks. I can tell you stories about that too, but no point in going there. But me and still joke about that. But because yeah, there were some uh, child molesting punk rock chicks back in those days that
Okay, the older
yeah,
women.
that like teaching the young 15, 16-year-old bucks, how things are done.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, and so I don't know, when I was thinking about this whole thing coming up, there's a whole shit ton I could talk about those days in the early 80s. I mean, I think the most important time for Albuquerque musically was it started with the late 80s. And there was like this solid group of people in Albuquerque that were doing music, but there's also a lot of Albuquerqueans who moved to fucking San Francisco and Seattle. And in the early 90s, like maybe 90, 91, 92, they moved back to Albuquerque for one reason or another. Um, and they took over the scene and started putting on shows. And that's when like we had the Golden West. And it was during that period from say like 92 to 96 or 98 that the Albuquerque music scene, I mean the amount of talent that came out of Albuquerque was just stupefying. And Big Damn Crazy Weight was on Sub Pop Records, and they were supposed to. The story is they were supposed to go big, but they had a problem with one of the guitarists who wanted to have his own hotel room and didn't want to sleep in vans. And the Sub Pop guys are like, "No, you're going on a van tour. If you don't want to do that, tough shit." And so, but they were on Sub Pop, and then you had so many bands, Drags, Lake, which of course became the Shins, That all happened in the mid '90s, between like '92 and '98, and that's when Scarachaka happened. Scarachaka was like, people in Albuquerque loved him, and they were big in Albuquerque, but fuck, he'd go to places in other cities, and they were just like the biggest shit that anybody had ever even heard of. And Dave was just the most loved person in the world when he was doing Scared of Chaka. I mean, fuck no, man. Cities loved him, and they loved that band. And it's still that way today, man. He's starting to do Scared of Chaka shows again. He's doing a pop up taco stand up in Seattle now. And in between that, like a couple months ago, he played a show down in Mexico City for a festival, and then played a show in Minneapolis a couple weeks ago. And yeah, he's realizing like how much fucking people loved Scared of Chaka. And he quit doing Chaka and ended up having a kid, and he raised the kid. And I think now he's at a point where he's like, yeah, I can go back to doing what I want to do. It's not like people reliving their past, because a lot of those bands, they were doing it the hard way back in the old days. But nowadays, like, it's not so hard for them. They get paid to go to the show, to go fly to the show, and then they get paid for the show. And so it's not like they're fucking
Wow.
sleeping with their fucking face in the drummer's ass, smelling his farts all night in a van between shows. And yeah, so it's a better setup for them now. And the real big bands like Descendants, I mean, fuck, they got it made nowadays. Their shows are bigger than they ever were before. Their music is better, and yeah, they don't have to fucking sleep fucking head to toe with the other band members in a travel van.
Well, and them, us, we're all old enough now that we can do what we want to do instead of trying to plan for the future. We're just going to do what we like.
Yeah, I don't think.
The future is behind us.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I figured that one out the hard way. Yeah, the
Yeah,
future's behind us.
that's kind of a relief, actually, I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm also like, well, fuck, man. I always had a God complex before, and if this last time didn't kill me, what the fuck is it gonna take to kill me? Jesus Christ.
Don't do it, man. Don't do it.
No, no, no. I'm just talking about dying by natural causes.
I know. I'm just saying, don't, nothing's going to happen to you
Well,
because nothing is tough enough.
something eventually is gonna happen. I mean, everyone dies,
I,
but I'm just talking about.
that's like, I pity the fool. I pity the fool. That's what I want to say. Like,
Oh,
that it takes on Richard Agee.
what we need to talk about is that NoFX show,
Please do.
because I listened to Josh's story about that, and I remember I was in Seattle back in like 2014 or so, some 2015, something like that. We were all hanging out in Chris Brownrigg's backyard. I don't know if you knew the Brownrigg twins. No? Okay.
I don't think so, no.
Well, I was hanging out in Chris Brownrigg's backyard, and there were a whole bunch of people from Albuquerque, and they're younger than you, so they were good, like 4 to 6, 8 years younger than me. And we were talking about like doing exactly what you're doing, but setting it up as like a Facebook page, a private Facebook page, where you could bring up a topic and everybody could say what their rendition of the story was, because everybody's got a different rendition of the story, and you could get everybody in there, and after we thought about it for a minute, we are like, wait, maybe we shouldn't do that.
Yeah, I'll go to jail.
Maybe people will get in trouble.
It's so fun though, like to I guess because I always came home, like I moved away, but I always came home and I'd visit people and then we would talk about certain things that had happened. Remember that night? And I just always thought it was so funny to remember who was where at what time. Like, oh yeah, I came around the corner when so and so had the baseball bat. And, oh no, man, I was down the street. I just always thought it was funny to hear how everybody came together on those certain
Yeah,
experiences.
yeah, and everybody's got their own, view of the story and how it played out.
Yeah.
And then everybody's memories are a fucked up thing. And some people don't remember things quite as accurately as other people do. And some people
No.
think they remember stuff more accurately, but then when they start hearing like other renditions of the story, they're like, yeah, maybe I didn't remember that so accurately. But anyway, so what happened with the NoFX show was this dude, Steve Romero, his nickname was Chavo. That was a self-imposed nickname. Um, and he had a band called Jack Lord's Hair. If you don't laugh at the name Jack Lord's Hair,
Jack, was that what you said? Jack Wart's
Jack
hair?
Lord's Hair. Jack Lord was the main guy in Hawaii Five O, the Hawaiian
Okay.
guy. And he had that like totally waxed over black hair. And so yeah, so they
Yeah.
called them so their band was Jack Lord's Hair. And so they're
Okay.
playing and they're just, a good fucking uh punk rock hardcore band, real basic shit. And they're playing and just like Josh said, there were these dudes from out of town and everybody knew that they were in town and everyone knew that they were going to be at the show and everyone knew that there was probably going to be shit. And so everybody was prepped for that. And so yeah, so I showed up to the show by myself, of course, and I parked right outside the front door. And so Jack Lord's Hair starts playing, and this little fucking skinhead dude gets up on stage and starts goose stepping around. And Chavo, the singer dude, Steve, goes up and pushes him, and the dude pushes him back, and it looked like they were going to get into a fight on the stage. And so I went up there and grabbed the skinhead dude by his collar and just dragged him by his collar outside. And once we got outside, I threw him down and I backed off to square off with him. And I guess skinheads aren't used to like fair fighting like that. It's like, okay, come on, we're gonna fight like two men fight.
Yeah.
And so he backed off, and then he reached behind, and he had a fucking 12-inch kitchen knife stuck down the back of his pants. And he pulled it out and he whipped it at me, and I backed off, and I was like, dude, what the fuck? And I looked over at the door, and all these dudes are at the door yelling at me to come in. And so I go running over there, and I dive through the door, and the fucking skinhead comes running after me and dives through the door after me with the knife out. And that's when he stabbed Craig, and it went through his
Oh.
arm right here about 2 inches, and went out the arm in the back about 3 inches. And then the knife got dropped, and dude, he started getting his fucking shit beat out of him right there at the door. And people were just like stepping on his head and shit. And then I found the knife and I threw it back by the back curtain behind the stage. I talked to another dude who said he found a knife and threw it back behind the curtain also. So turns out that there's probably two knives with those people. But anyway, so this guy here is getting his fucking head kicked in. And then they fucking kick him out of the door, and everyone piles out of the club. And that's when because everybody was still outside, including the NoFX guys. Um, and oh shit, this is so funny. And so everybody piles out of the club, and all the NoFX guys go running into their van. Um, because they don't want to be any part of any shit. They're a touring band. They don't want to get arrested or anything. But Eric Melvin, one of the guitarists, he's got a camcorder with him. This is back in camcorder days. And so he's like, fuck this. He's got the camcorder over his shoulder. All these people pile out of the club. And this one little skinhead dude is just getting kicked across the pavement. And everybody else just like all of a sudden up at attention. And they find there's like five of them. And two of them were skinhead chicks. And the skinhead chicks were getting hurt. But they should have because they're just standing there yelling at everybody. And then like one of them or actually two of them. The one guy that stabbed me and Craig, they tried getting in this car, and that's the car that Josh was talking about. Big Ed, I don't know if you ever knew Big Ed.
I
Yeah, well,
did.
yeah, he died a couple of years ago. Uh, yeah, he was one of the ones on top of the car, just jumping on it. And the one guy, the guy that stabbed me, he got his head like stuck as the car was getting crushed down, and he got his spine.
Oh
Yeah, he
no.
got his spine compressed from it. He's all, and
Oh,
Ed's just jumping on the car and shit. And so like I'm out there and I'm looking for somebody to fight with, but like there's like 80 people on five at this point. And so I couldn't find anybody to fight with. And then I feel down my right hand and my fingers feel sticky. And so I look down and my whole hand is covered with blood. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck? And I look at the underside of my wrist. And when the dude like swiped his knife at me, he just grazed my wrist and it just cut the skin. You could see all the tendons and veins and everything. It was like a perfect cut, but it didn't cut into any of the main veins or anything. And I was like, oh shit. And so I start walking over to get in my truck to go to the hospital. And one of our friends, Rob Yurdius, aka Slow Bob, he comes over and he's all, dude, where are you going, Rich? And so I showed him my hand. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna go to the hospital. And he's all, you gotta take Craig with you. You gotta take Craig with you. And they bring Craig over, and he's all like, his eyes are all over the place because he's got this big old cut in his arm. And so I'm like, oh fuck yeah! So we throw him in my pickup, and we pull out of there and look in the rearview mirror, and it's just fucking mayhem with like 80 local Albuquerque punks, all different cliques. Not even caring about the cliques anymore, just beating the fuck out of these New Jersey fucking white Aryan resistance. They were called Hammerskins, and so I take Craig up to the hospital, and this is the old days at UNMH, and I pulled straight up to the emergency to the ambulance entrance, and Craig had been holding his right arm out my window because my truck was brand new. It was only like 3 weeks old at the time. Didn't even have like 100 miles on it yet. He's like, "Yeah, I
no.
don't want to get blood in your truck," and so he's holding his arm out my window the whole time. So we pull up into the emergency room entrance, and the ER nurses are sitting out there having cigarettes, and they see Craig show up with his arm hanging out. Like, holy shit, what the fuck happened to you? And so they bring him in, and then one of the ER guys talks to me, and I'm like, well, yeah, I just got this cut, but I'm not bleeding that much. He's like, well, if you can go around find a parking space and just walk in this door, we'll take care of you too. And so me and Craig were in the ER, and they're not really doing anything to take care of us. They classified us as like a gang fight. Um, oh, and when we were driving up there, every fucking APD, sheriff, and state trooper in the vicinity was driving down Lomas.
They're all
There
going
was
that
like
way and you're
20
going this
cop
way.
cars driving down Lomas as we were driving up Lomas to go to the hospital. It was insane. And
It's
so
over.
we're in the hospital and these cops are interviewing us. We're like, dude, why are you harassing us? This fucking skinhead stabbed us. They're like, well, we consider this because the knife was used as a gang involved incident. And they're just totally like treating us like shit. And then the skinhead comes in and he can't lay down on the gurney. He can only sit up straight because his fucking spine is compressed so bad. And his face looks like a fucking Picasso painting. I mean, it was
Oh no.
a place. And the cops look at him and they see him and they're like, dude,
Oh
because
no.
it turns out the weekend before those fucking Hammerskin dudes, they showed up at a party over in the residential area by Carlisle and I-40. And the kid who owned the house, his parents were out of town. The kid who owned the house, he didn't want him there, and so he grabbed his dad's 12 gauge and went to chase the guys out of the house. And well, they pulled his bluff on it, and they took the gun from him, and then bashed his head in with a hammer, and caused him to be invalid.
Who was that? I know that story.
Yeah, and the cops couldn't do anything about that incident because it was considered self-defense because the guy had a gun pulled on him in the first place.
Hold on.
So when the cops
Oh, I remember
saw him
this.
when they were talking to me and Craig, their eyes just lit up and they're like, dude, we got this guy now. And the skinhead looked at me and Craig and he said, you motherfuckers, I'm going to remember you. I'm going to fucking murder you guys. And the two cops looked at each other and they said, did you hear that? I heard that.
I did.
I heard that. And me and Craig were laughing. And after that, we got fucking carte blanche in the emergency room. They took such good care of us. Those people fucking loved us. The cops did, the ER nurses, everybody. They fucking loved us. And then, yeah, my back teeth are floating. But then, like, the dude ended up getting sent to prison for attempted murder.
Damn.
And he got sentenced to like 5 years. I'll be right back. Yeah, and so the dude got sentenced to like 5 years, but he got out after like 2 years. Wait, where'd you go? Talking to the back of a 55 Chevy.
Okay, say all that again.
Okay, so the dude got sentenced to 5 years, but he got out after like 2 years. And
this is for what he did with the gun
no, this is what he did
weeks earlier?
with me and Craig for attempted murder.
Damn.
And no, because they couldn't do anything for the week before.
Was it really the same guy?
Yeah, it was the same guy.
No shit.
Yeah, it was not just the same guy. There was four of them, or I think there was three of them, and then there was two Albuquerque morons that were hanging out with them, and then there was a couple other Albuquerque morons that let him hang out with them, and they're the reason why they showed up at the shows and at those parties. But yeah, and so he ended up getting out after like 2 years or something like that. But at the time in New Mexico, they had a rule where if you participated in the conviction of a felon, you were entitled to know when they were going to get out. And so I got this letter saying that this fucking guy is getting out of prison next month. And I was like, oh, fuck. And Craig got one of those letters too. And that was the only time in my life that I owned a gun. And I called up my buddy Mike. He took me down to buy a gun, and of course he got me to buy one of the best, even though I wasn't any good with guns. And that dude, from what we hear, as soon as he got out of prison in New Mexico, he just split. And what he did was he came up to this area up here, because that was 92, I believe. And in the mid 90s, there was a big white supremacy movement in the Northwest. And he became part of that. And from what we hear, he got arrested with a group of other skinheads. And they found like a list of synagogues and NAACP buildings, and then stuff for making bombs in their car. And so they went to prison for terrorism again. And then I guess he died in prison. Oh, I don't know.
Damn.
Craig kept up with like the stories behind the guy.
Mm-hmm.
I never really liked to, but then Craig died back in 2011. I haven't really kept up with it, but it's always been in the back of my mind with that crowd and that group that was the White Aryan Resistance in the Northwest back in the 90s. The dude who ran them is still doing them. His name is, and he's part of the reason why there's so much right-wing shit going on up here. And so it's always in the back of my mind that like one of those dipshit fucking
one of those
Aryan
guys.
skinhead fuckers will, try to prove himself in the gang, and so he'll just pick a name off the list, and my name's on the list. And I opened up my door one day and, and that's always been in the back of my. That's why I was always sort of worried about. I never really talked about it in public. I'd tell the stories with, there's just a couple of people around, but I didn't tell.
No need to bring it up.
I didn't really tell the story around a lot of people. But I mean, those dudes, they're the ones who are part of the Trump troll brigade that are all online now. And if they want to find out where I live, they'll find out where I live, and there's nothing I can.
I never understood why they were in Albuquerque. I mean, there can't be that many
their
not,
car broke down.
so they just stuck around for a
Yeah,
while.
their car broke down. They didn't have no money, and
I didn't understand where Nazi skinheads would come from in Albuquerque and why they wouldn't have just kept moving on.
well, we had some local Nazis. Um, one's last name was Baca, even though he had blue eyes, and one guy was half black. But they still, they put on the fucking insignias and shit, just as like a fear thing. Except for
Yeah,
that Baca dude, he died. Um, yeah, you didn't want to fuck with him. He had absolutely no fear, no conscience. Um, yeah, he was a scary motherfucker. Uh,
really.
yeah, he shot off a gun. I think it was at a Green Day show at the Nerd House. You heard Josh talking about the Nerd House? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I think it was Green Day that was playing. But the skinheads showed up and they started a fight. If it was out front, then the fight would get started with the frat boys. But if it was out back in the backyard, the fight would get started with the skinheads. It's like, there's gonna be a fight here, one way or the other. And
One
Josh
way or
was
the
saying like,
other.
dude, we're all nerds, man. What the fuck? We're not supposed to be fighting like this.
Yeah. How did we end up in the middle of
But
this?
yeah, he fucking in the middle of like a big old brawl, he pulled the gun out and just started shooting it off. And he shot it right next to my face, and right next to a younger skinhead dude's face, and it grazed the side of his head right above his ear. And the dude was just, uh, he was staring off. He had that mile-long stare that they talk about. And I grabbed him, and I was like, dude, it just grazed you. Just get the fuck out of here. You're okay. And he was like, oh fuck. And that dude, Greg Baca, he just fucking pocketed his pistol and split. He just wanted to pull his gun out and shoot wherever, whoever
Yeah.
it hit.
Was that guy older than you? Who,
No,
like, is it
no,
older?
I think he was the
It's
same age
young.
as Dom. Dom knew him.
Okay.
Dom knew him personally. Dom had some
Yeah.
scary ass fucking stories about that dude. But he ended up dying in prison, or he got out of prison, or something, and got in trouble again.
Dom tells scary stories about that dude.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. Well, there you go.
yeah, and there was a bunch like they weren't really like riots. Like Nirvana played in the basement at Sunshine Theater on their first tour, and this one dude started a fight with a bunch of girls, and it just got messy. And then there was a show, 15 played at I forget the name of the place. It was a record store right next to the 7-Eleven at Central and University, and big old fucking fight broke out there. And 15 swore that no lookout bands would ever play in Albuquerque ever again. And I think that sort of happened too. We got blackballed. Um, but Josh also talked about the SNFU riot at the when they played at the softball complex, and it wasn't really a riot. That was a funny show because the night before, I ended up getting into one of the worst or the worst brawl of my life with a friend of mine, and we ended up putting each other in the hospital. And he ended up trying to bite my eyeball out. I had to, so that's what these scars right here are from.
Damn.
And you can see how that eye sort of droops there. That yeah,
And this is 86,
no, that was
87.
1990,
Okay. All right.
1989, because it was 1989 because I were and yeah, and so I had to spend the night in the hospital with the plastic surgeon stitching my eye up. And I don't know what happened to Jeff. So like I wasn't gonna miss the SNFU show, no matter how bad a shape I was in, because they were my favorite band. And so, I get out of the hospital, and it was an afternoon show, it was a daytime show in the middle of the summer. And so I make it up to the softball complex, and the roadie for SNFU was a friend of mine, I met him from another band that he roadied for, and his name was Monkey. That was his tour name. His full tour name was Monkey Fuck, but his tour name was, we just called him Monkey. And so I find Monkey just so I can say hello to him, and he's like, dude, what the fuck has happened to you? And my whole fucking face is all taped up and my eyes all swollen shut. And I was all, well, I got into a fight with that guy right over there. And I pointed to Jeff in the crowd, and Jeff's face is all swollen and shit. And like I hit him repeatedly on one side of his face. So the one side of his face is just all swollen up. It looks like fucking that fucking the Elephant Man or that dude from the movie Mask.
Mask, yeah.
And he looks over at me and smiles and waves as I'm pointing at him. Monkey's from Montreal, and he just looked at me and went, "Dude, you people in this town are fucking weird."
Yeah.
He went over and got me a tour shirt and gave me the tour shirt. And on their live album, they actually took a picture from Albuquerque that day because they were out on the infield of the softball complex playing street hockey because they're from Canada, so they had hockey sticks everywhere they went.
Gotta play some hockey. Yeah.
Yeah, and they held up one of those black tin ashtray cans. They held that up like it's a Stanley Cup trophy. It's a funny picture. But so what happened was, and nobody knows where these dudes showed up, but it's like 2 or 3 fucking Nazi skinheads showed up. And they got the fucking tattoos all over them and shit. And they're just sitting out in the middle of the crowd, doing their own business, watching the show. And they're just, nobody in the crowd was having it at all. They're just like, dude, we don't want you guys here. Like, dude, we're not doing anything, we're just in here. Like, dude, we don't want you fucking Nazis here. And so, like, they actually made them get up. And, like, so, like, if the stage is right here and they're directly out from the stage about 50 yards, right in the middle of the crowd, the whole crowd surrounded them and then walked them around to the back side of the stage. And they're like, dude, we're not leaving. We don't have to leave. And the whole fucking crowd was following them. And then they came around to the front side of the stage where me and Monkey were standing. And they finally got these 2 or 3 Nazi kids to understand that they were not welcome there. And they finally just fucking put their tail between their legs and left. And they didn't come back and shoot the place up or anything, thank God. But that show was also funny because, like, the softball complex, there's like 5 softball fields, and then they have this like whole like country club area where there's like a bar and a restaurant and shit, and you can sit out on the patio and watch the softball games as you're having a beer. Well, they didn't realize the crowd that they were going to be dealing with, and so they brought out a money machine truck, and the crowd ran the money machine truck out of money. And then people started going off the property to get more money until they ended up running out of all the booze that they had.
Damn.
Beer, everything that they had at the softball company.
Everything gone.
Yeah. And SNFU played a great show that day too. But yeah, that was, and so that wasn't a riot, but yeah, that was, typical Albuquerque thing of, yeah, we're not having Nazis here, get the fuck out of here. And so that was sort of a moment of pride more than anything. And I saw Monkey a couple more times with other bands that he came through. And he's like, oh, yeah, so you don't have your eyeball all chewed out.
I remember you guys talking about that show forever. It was infamous.
Yeah, well, it was a good show and it was a fun show. And I would have had a lot more fun if I hadn't spent the whole fucking night in the ER. And then, when you go through something like that, you're not like in the mood to like throw back 12 beers. You're just like,
No.
Yeah, and so I was just,
Is there any particular reason you and your friend decided to beat each other up?
yeah, he was one of the older crowd from Steve Island's crowd. And those guys always picked on me because I was one of the younger guys. And so it's just one of those things where he
That night.
said some shit to me, and I got sick of him picking on me. And I just turned around and fucking nailed him. And, he's like this fucking 5'10", 250-pound Indian dude, with fucking shoulders twice as wide as me. He's fucking, and he was one of the most insane fighters that any of us knew. Like, he just knew not to get into a fight with him because he was going to do anything he could to make sure that he won. He didn't care what rules he broke.
Really?
So yeah, so after I laid him out, I was like, oh fuck, I can't let him get back up. So I jumped on top of him and just started beating the fuck out of him some more, just square in the face as hard as I could. And so I was like, okay, he's done. Fuck yeah. And no, that's when he fucking gets up and jumps up and tries to bite my fucking eyeball out. Yeah,
Nothing like a little love among friends.
yeah, that was Jeff Shalakian. Yeah, I mean, there are so many crazy stories about shit that dude did in fights, and you just knew that you didn't want to
Really?
get into a fight with him. And I learned the hard way, even though I beat him, he put me in the hospital. And and yeah, so there was no reason except for that. I was just the young kid around that crowd, around the party Viking crowd, and I got sick of them picking on me. They didn't pick.
Punching
They
bag.
didn't pick on me.
I didn't know you were their punching bag.
Yeah.
They didn't pick on you anymore?
Mm-mm. Nah, the ones that would, like, most of them didn't. There was just a couple of them, like Schlocky would pick on me. Tom Mulberger, he used to pick on me, but then he stopped. Tom Gandy, who is just a fucking monster of a giant dude, he picked on me a little bit back in the old show days, and he stopped doing it. And of course, me and Steve Island were just really good friends over all those years, even though he's like 5 or 6 years older than me. Um, and so no, it's pretty much just like him, just still talking shit, just be the one talking shit. And so it's probably one of the dumbest things I've ever done.
Were you generally a fighter amongst your crowd?
No, I got into fights and I had a reputation as a fighter, but I couldn't fight worth a shit. I just like had a couple of lucky instances, like the thing with Jeff Shalaki. And then there was another night, like downtown, where the club owner of Golden West was talking shit to me, and I got sick of hearing him. So I turned around and punched him, and it was just the same as perfect square punch, and laid him out up against the glass, and then he crumbled to the ground. And then he got up and pulled his gun out and was getting ready to shoot me. And one of his bouncers jumped on me and covered me on the ground. And then two of the other bouncers wrestled the gun away from him. and then, and so that
Damn.
was just that. But then, like 3 or 4 days later, he was walking down the alley behind Dingo Bar, and some homeless dude was there and asked if he can borrow spare some money or something. And he was walking with his girlfriend, and he decided to impress his girlfriend, so he started kicking in on this homeless guy. And this one black dude that worked at I think it was called Brewster's back then. This really tall black dude, he's really super cool, and he's like this super badass martial artist. He was an extra in one of those martial arts movies from the 90s, and he came out back and saw this dude uh, kicking in this homeless person. He's like, dude, you don't fucking pick on homeless people. What's wrong with you? So he just beat the fuck out of him right there. And when people saw that guy, the manager, the owner of Golden West, a couple of days later, they didn't hear the story about the bouncer. They just heard the story about me punching him, and so I
So they think it's you.
claim for that. And so yeah, I live mostly off of notoriety. But no, like someone like fucking Tommy Bottom or his best friend Amos, I wouldn't even stand 15 seconds with them because they actually know how to fight.
Well, some people knew how to fight. Some people liked to fight. Some people are the ones that would finish the fight. Some people are the ones that instigated the fight. Everybody had a different role. Like Tommy says, he just finished the fights after his friends ran their mouth
Yeah, that happened.
at other
Yeah,
people.
that happened a lot, and that was sort of annoying. And
That's what I remember. Because
especially
I'm like, you guys were not innocent.
yeah, especially when the people who ran their mouths off and started the fight ran off as soon as the fight started. And so afterwards,
Yeah.
it's like,
Oh, that
yeah,
sucks.
there's some reckoning here that we got to come to because I just
Yeah.
had to get into a fight because your fucking stupid fucking mouth
Yes.
couldn't shut the fuck up.
Yes.
And so,
Yes. And there is that, those one or two people that are kind of notorious for doing that.
yeah, um, yeah, and they lost a lot of friends during that time too because you get tired of hanging out with people like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I think if there's because see like after uh, the shows moved into the nightclubs, everything mellowed out. Um, it,
That's what several people have said. That's what made it safe, is you were
yeah, yeah, it
finally
did. It did
not
make
on the
it.
streets anymore.
Yeah, it did make it a lot safer because yeah, it wasn't no security show and just anybody showing up and doing whatever the fuck they want inside and out. There was that house that Darren had on Cole right before Yale. They had a
Yeah.
show in there one night and in the basement. Like my band used to practice in that basement, and it's a tiny little fucking basement. Could barely fit 15 people, and for some reason they had a band and like 30 people in there. And this dude Ray, I think it was Ray, he got the blame for it at least. Who was in uh, All You Can Eat? He jumped up and grabbed onto this pipe and was swinging from the pipe, and then the pipe broke, and it was a gas main with all of these people in the basement. So fucking everybody split out of the basement as quick as they could. And then of course in that crowd, eh, there was like three or four plumbers in that crowd alone. So they run out to their trucks and get their fucking wrenches and run over and shut the gas off right away. And I really do not know how that house did not blow up that night because everybody's smoking and
No
shit and fucking
shit.
yeah, and cramped into this tiny little
That
basement thing, and how people didn't die from breathing in the natural gas. Yeah, this fucking
I don't know how a lot of people didn't die in that house more altogether.
yeah. I remember one time I went over there and JB Jones, you remember JB,
Yeah.
the tattoo artist guy? Yeah, real sweet guy.
Yeah. I have a JB tattoo here and an Ed tattoo here and a few more.
Yeah, I got two of JB's tattoos on my back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I go over there one day and he's putting fucking pieces of glass in his bong and smoking the pieces of glass. And I'm like, dude, what the
Oh
fuck are you
no.
doing? He's like, oh,
Because they're all smoking crack.
no, 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 no. He tipped over one of the bongs. It was like a really old bong, like 2 years old. And there's all this fucking resin on the glass that they couldn't scrape. So they were just putting chunks of glass that had resin on it into the pipe and smoking.
Oh my. Okay, that is kind of funny. That's way better than what I thought you were gonna say.
Oh, no, no. No, I never, like the hardest drugs I ever got into was cocaine. Like LSD doesn't fall along the hard drugs thing. In my mind, when you talk about hard drugs, you're talking cocaine, heroin, shit along those lines.
Yeah.
And when I had my apartment on Columbia, the place where we paid $185 a month rent, my two roommates started dealing coke at the parties, and so they'd buy an 8 ball and divvy it up into quarters, $20 quarters, and sell it off. And off of half of what they bought, they made their money back, and then they'd snort the rest of it. And then they started trading me cocaine for rent and bills, and that's when I got into cocaine. And then I got the job on the loading dock where I was a teamster and I was making $17 an hour in 1991, which was really good fucking money in 1991. And so yeah, I kept doing coke and shit, and then decided to quit doing coke. And me and my buddy Mike Bobroff, we had this plan to quit doing coke by spending all our money at the bar. And
Okay.
we were spending like $500-600 a week at the bar, and people were like,
Did you at least go to the strip clubs?
"No, I was never a strip club person."
Just the alcohol. Damn.
Yeah,
That's a lot of alcohol.
Yeah, well, at the bar, but yeah, people were laughing and joking uh, at us and saying, "Dude, you would have spent less money, just kept doing coke." And a fucking $600 a week bar tab.
Probably not in the long run.
Yeah. Well, it was just a joke, but yeah, that was the
Yeah.
extent of that. Yeah, and that all stemmed out of my party house on Columbia because of those geniuses that lived in my living room and kitchen. Do you,
Those are just roommates. Weren't special friends, just roommates.
back then they were friends. Nowadays, no.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-mm.
but you know,
Mm-hmm.
did you ever watch that HBO special that she was on? The thing about so I
I
murdered
did.
someone. Okay, well,
Uh,
her
yeah.
husband, the dude that was in prison in that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
he was the guy selling my roommates coke, and they bought it from
Oh,
him because he would shoot it up, and so he'd get more pure cocaine. It wasn't cut.
this is the 90s.
Yeah, and that's how I ended up meeting that guy. And yeah, that guy didn't make me happy at all. Especially,
No, the no,
having him hang around and stuff. And you know, I lost touch with during that time too, because I knew going back to high school, and yeah, she went off on her thing, and got into the whole biker thing. A bunch of the girls did. Even like she got into that for a little while. And she's doing great for herself now. She's clean. She's a fucking lawyer and shit now. But yeah, back when they were 18, 19, 20 years old, Jess used to call a Harley a $12,000 vibrator.
oh my, yeah,
Yeah,
that sounds like something she would say.
yeah. But yeah, so yeah, and it's nice to it's really nice to be able still be able to talk to Mark nowadays, because she's seen some shit. She's been through some shit.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
And
Yeah, I
especially
don't envy that at
for being an
all.
adopted person, and yeah, just
Weird guys there. Oh, that whole scene seems so scary to me. I'm really glad I missed it because things were going bad in the 80s, people doing coke and smoking crack. And then for at least a decade after that, it just kept getting worse.
yeah. Well, yeah, and I used to say that especially in the '90s, Albuquerque was a great place to be a rock star without actually becoming a rock star.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
all the musicians, they lived the rock star lifestyle, but
Hmm.
they hadn't quite made it as a rock star yet. But they had,
And everybody I talked to, yeah, is like the 90s in Albuquerque was like living like a.
yeah, there still was a shit ton of great music that came out of there.
Hmm.
And the people who did succeed were the people who left Albuquerque.
Yeah.
And that's always been a point of contention for me with artists just in general in Albuquerque. And I told Eric McFadden that, and I basically talked him into leaving Albuquerque. Had he not left Albuquerque, I don't think he'd be in the position he's in. He's considered one of the best guitarists alive right now. And do you know Eric McFadden?
I don't I, I don't think I do.
Do you know stories about him or anything?
No.
He's a local musician. Went to Highland with him, but he was the same age as Steve Island, so
Okay.
he was way older than me. But when he was still a teenager, people were calling him, the new Jimi Hendrix.
Really?
Yeah, and then all through the '80s, he just fucked around to Albuquerque and played in some bands. None of the bands were really very good. His alcoholism got really bad, and then got to the point where he's living at the Crossroads Hotel or Crossroads Motel, and he was at rock bottom, and that's when I talked him into. I didn't talk him into. I just kept telling him over and over, "Dude, you need to go.
Get
You
out.
need to leave Albuquerque." And he finally did, and now just if you get the opportunity, look up Eric McFadden on YouTube.
Please. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's one of Albuquerque's glory boys. And then, you know, it's like Dave Hernandez and Scarachaka. They left, did a fucking great job with their band as far as like that type of punk rock goes. Even the Word Salad guys left. They just stayed on tour for like 2 or 3 years, and they made a good name for themselves in their world in that fucking thrash metal or whatever the fuck they call it. Uh, the Shins would not have gotten where they gotten to if they didn't leave Albuquerque. Um, is it the Drags? No, the Briefs. Oh, no, the Briefs are from Seattle, but they had an Albuquerque drummer. This dude named Chris something or other. And so, yeah, the Briefs were in Seattle. The Shins were in Portland. Oh, and the Eyeliners. The Eyeliners never technically left Albuquerque either, I don't think, but they just stayed on tour for 2 or 3 years. During
Stay out of it.
Yeah, during that time, fucking Joan Jett fell in love with them and ended up signing them to Blackheart Records. And then when they were finished with it, they just decided they were finished with it, and they're like, yeah, we did what we wanted to do with music, and now we're gonna go off and do our own thing. I think that was when they were in their late 20s or early 30s, and yeah, they just stopped playing. But they never would have gotten. I mean, I was doing load-in for some band one day at the El Rey, and I was talking to somebody else doing load-in, and I was like, yeah, dude, I heard the Eyeliner Chicks are in town. Have you heard that? He's like, yeah, I heard they're back now. They've been back a couple of weeks. And the dude that we were unloading for was like, dude, what are you guys talking about? Like, oh, the Eyeliner Chicks are back home. The Eyeliners are from Albuquerque? Yeah. Like, dude, I did 2 Warp tours with them. They never told me they were from Albuquerque.
I never mentioned that.
Yeah, I think that was that
No,
band
don't
Coheed
bring
and
that up.
Cambria or something like that. But yeah, and so the Eyeliners.
I mean, I didn't even graduate from Highland before I left. People were like, you can't stay here. Come home to party whenever you want, but don't stay here.
Yeah, that was
And
one.
I,
I don't know. It might have been one of my biggest problems, but I also think I was supposed to stay in Albuquerque for as long as I did.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, and yeah, so I never listened to my own advice, but I don't think that I was a lot more content with being a big fish in a small pond,
Yes,
and it
yes.
just didn't. It's not part of my psyche or my mental state or whatever you want to call it. To go to someplace like LA and think I'm going to take it over. Be like, I'm going to be the biggest shit this town's ever
No,
seen.
no.
And I came close to that as a chef when I went up to Portland in 2009 to do a consulting gig for this guy who was opening a upscale Mexican restaurant in one of the like super rich suburbs south of Portland. And, the consulting gig went really well, but that was also right around the time that I started losing use of my shoulders. And the dude was like, dude, I think you're sick, man. I don't know if I want to hire you full time.
Mm,
But they did, when they opened, I saw they used all my recipes and everything. And they only lasted about a year and a half. So, but, when I think about it, I think, yeah, well, that was the point where, I actually could have made a name for myself as a chef moving to Portland at that time. Because it was right before, like, Portland went all crazy. So, you have to be there beforehand. And
yeah.
and then I'm like, yeah, but then I got sick, so fuck it, there ain't nothing I can change about that. No matter what direction I would have taken in my life, I still would have ended up right where I am right now. So uh, I still would have ended up getting sick. And there's no doctor in the world that can fix what I have. The closest chance of me being fixed is with embryonic stem cells. And so, short of those being legalized, now this who I am and where I am now. And it doesn't matter. I could have been the biggest rock star in the world in my 20s, uh, or the biggest
And
chef
still be right
in my
there.
30s. I still would have ended up paralyzed in my 40s. So So fuck it. That's just the way life is.
Fuck it. Fuck it. Just keep living life.
Yeah, and
Just keep doing it.
keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on.
Joe Dirt, man.
Exactly.
um, yeah. So
Dirt.
so sort of like I don't know. It seemed like it'd be cool if there was a lot more like explosive stories that I could have told you.
Um, think of some, and then you can tell me who to bring in on the call with you, and you guys talk about. Were your friends
Sorta like
older than you, or was that your
we knew each other.
era? Hmm.
We knew each other. Um, but he didn't really like me, and so therefore, I didn't stick around with people that didn't like me. Uh, but funny story about when we lived in that house at Seventh and Mountain in Wells Park.
Hmm.
Right after
Hmm.
right after we moved in there, uh, we got some mail from the previous people who lived there, and I opened one of the envelopes, and there was a credit card with like a $5,000 limit on it, and we're like, holy fucking shit. And so me and these two other dudes, we went out and bought a whole bunch of shit, and then and the other dude, they decided to go to Denver because there are record stores up there, there are punk rock clothing stores
Hmm.
back up there. The shit we didn't have, the shit. If you didn't go to Denver, you had to go to L.A. for the shit. And so they went up there and they bought leather jackets and they bought fucking nanas and creepers and they got me a bunch of records. And then the last I'd ever heard of was to fuck up the trail of the credit card investigators. They gave the credit card,
Hmm.
and he ended up getting a bus ticket back to Minneapolis. Except he bought like two bus tickets, one going to like Alabama and one going to Minneapolis.
Where you wanted to go?
Yeah, and that was the last I heard of until I saw his name start coming up on Facebook and shit. And I never like sent a friend request because we weren't really friends. And the punk rock house in the student ghetto at the time. There's
The
another
Stanford
there
House.
was another Stanford house after that. That was like half a block down and across the street, but that wasn't the original Stanford house. Like anybody else you
Okay.
talk to, they'll talk about the gross ass 2-story house down the road. That was actually
Was
owned by.
one of them was the nursery?
No, the nursery was around the corner, and I remember listening
Okay.
to Edna talk about that. Yeah, and the whole reason why
Hmm.
there was like little paintings down the wall, children shit, is because the place used to be a fucking nursery. Like it
Yeah,
literally,
like a little
literally was
preschool
a
or something.
nursery. And, I didn't go to parties there that much either. I just never got like a good vibe. Although I did try renting that place once when it was vacant, and they had this fucking trapdoor basement that like anybody who moved in there, like at one point they had a big ass fucking pot growing thing going on in there. Uh, Jesse Muriel, I think he was in Fractured. I think he lived in there. And so it had a trap door. So, like, if you were sleeping down there and you pulled the trap door closed and somebody wanted to fuck with you, they could just, like, move a dresser on top of the.
Put some over the top of it.
Yeah, and then you're
Oh
stuck there.
no.
And so that was like sort of a weird house. But yeah, it literally was a nursery at one point.
Okay.
And that's why it was called the nursery, and that's why it had all the little kids shit, on the wall next to it. And then there was a house right next to that too that was notorious. But all of those places came after the Stanford house.
Stanford houses.
Yeah, and
Okay.
that was the original porch that everybody just sort of hung out on in the summertime when there wasn't anything else to do. See if you could scrape up $1.05 for a Colt 45, 40, or see if somebody had some pot and you just sit there on. Every punk rock porch had to have a couch on it, and so
Uh-huh.
and they were regularly slept on. It freaks me out to think that I slept on those couches because like I have a hard time sitting on a couch in a thrift store nowadays. Like,
I know.
dude,
Yeah, I'm like,
I don't know what's been on that couch
yeah.
before. And to think that I used to sleep on punk rock house couches, it's like, fuck, dude.
I still carry like a towel with me wherever I go in case I have to sleep on somebody's floor or some pillow or something. I'm not putting my face on that.
Yeah. I mean, slowly as we got older, some people, they had like sleeping setups for visitors and shit. But still, like,
Guest rooms.
yeah, but still, a lot of people are just like, yeah, here's a couch, here's a blanket.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think it's so cool we're adults now because I'll visit my friends because I travel a lot and I'll pass through and they'll put me on their couch, but they make it all up with like sheets and stuff. And I'm like, you're such good dad.
yeah. Well,
Grown up.
everyone's got those couches that you can move around to make like full beds out of and shit.
Yeah, that too. Those aren't the ones I get to sleep on. If I'm visiting New Mexico, it's definitely not going to be on a love sack.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Not there.
New Mexico doesn't have whatchamacallit? What's that fucking uh Scandinavian furniture store?
Is it the love sack? Oh no, IKEA.
IKEA,
Yeah.
yeah. New Mexico don't have no IKEA.
Yeah,
They got a
no,
they
and
got
the
a
girls
te
that are
they got Tima, but Tima is way more expensive. And Tima is just like one store. It's some dude from Finland who opened it like 50 years ago. I don't even know if it's still open. But yeah, there's no
I
like
know where it is, but I don't know if it's
yeah,
open.
so nobody
No.
has any of those compartmental fucking love sack type of
No.
couch setup. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that's okay. I'll take what I can get. Hotel's expensive.
yeah, shitballs. But yeah, 'cause fuck, man. Even when I go up to Seattle, like down in Portland, one of my buddies would set me up nice up on his compartmental like love sack type of couch that he got at IKEA. But my other buddy, it was either on the couch or he'd fucking inflate some fucking inflatable mattress in his guest room, and I'm like, dude, I'm not sleeping on an inflatable mattress. I can barely get up off the floor, and you want me to fucking roll around on a fucking inflatable mattress, crawl into the bathroom to try and stand up? Yeah, no, dude. And it's always one of the cheap ass old school ones that deflate while you're sleeping on it. So
It's like when you
you
want to
end up
go
on the
camping,
floor,
it's
but
like
you're
that.
surrounded by like half filled mattress all around you.
It's like you sunk into it.
But trying to think about, I can't think of anything else like super badass fun about Albuquerque and about its people. I mean, there was a lot of fun shit. As far as the restaurants go and shit. One of the sad things about Albuquerque was how limited the bar scene was. But then when I go to other places, I see that like downtown, we had like 5 bars within like 3 or 4 blocks of each other that were friendly to us, and another 5 or 6 that were not so friendly. But we could go there if we didn't, if there was anything else. And so we actually sort of had it made that way because, even when you go to these big cities, there might be 5, cool punk rock dive bars, but they're all in different corners of the city.
Yeah, they're not like all up and down the street.
And there's, stupid stories about different bands that I got to hang out with. Um, and like that, Susan Cronin told the story about me taking her to her first show, which was the Minutemen. And
Uh-huh.
6 weeks after that D. Boone, the singer for the Minutemen, died. So that was one of his last shows. I think they had like 3 other shows.
Oh no.
Yeah, yeah. And that afternoon, they played a free show at UNM in the afternoon, a matinee show at the subway station. It was underneath the sub ballroom. Did you ever go into the student union
Oh
booth?
yeah, substation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Uh,
forgot about that place.
yeah, yeah. And they played a free show down there. And then they went over and hung out at the Stanford House, the real Stanford House. All afternoon, everybody came by, got to meet D Boone and Mike Watt and shit, and George Hurley, and it was just like a great day for everybody just hanging out with the Minutemen on the porch there. And then they played that night, and that was the last day of their like regular tour. And they went back to L.A. and then they had a show in Phoenix, I guess, and it was when they were driving to Phoenix that D Boone got into the accident and got killed.
Wow, right after you took Susan and got her like all excited about punk rock.
Yeah, she was excited about it beforehand, but she didn't hadn't been to a show. And
Okay.
yeah, and you know, just like she was talking about the people and stuff, that's where she was finally able. I think she was finally able to meet people she could relate to, rather than being in the Catholic
Yeah.
school. The Catholic school
Yeah.
really wasn't doing much for her to grow. And when she like started meeting the people in the punk rock scene, that's when she started to like see like, oh, there are people that are like my type of people here. Yeah, I like telling the stories, uh, especially like little shit. Like me and Steve Island could get together and tell stupid stories about little shit that happened because we lived together so many times. Just like
Really?
stupid shit that happened at the different places we lived at. There's one New Year's Eve where we had the party at. I was living with Mike Prothero, the singer for the Hellcats, and we had the New Year's Eve party there, and showed up early. And he used to live there also. He lived there before I lived there. And I just finished making some jungle juice with Bacardi 150, or not with Bacardi 151, with Everclear.
With Everclear?
Yeah, and it had like 3 bottles. It was in a thermos cooler. It had like 3 bottles of Everclear in there and a bunch of high C and shit and fucking.
Yeah.
Well, he starts drinking and it's like 7 o'clock at night. And he's like, oh, this shit's weak, man. You guys don't know what alcohol is. This shit's weak. By the time 9 o'clock comes around, he's trying to stand on this one coffee table and he just crushes it. Kevin, the bass player for Jerry's Kids, he shows up and picked him up by the neck and lifted him like a foot off the ground by the neck. And Kevin was just like, dude, I know what it's like when it's like this. And he just fucking split. He wasn't gonna have nothing to do with it.
Oh
And and
no, really?
and it was like by 10 o'clock, he ends up passing out. It's total fucking alcohol overdose. And he passes out in Mike Prothero's bedroom. It might have been my bedroom, but it was the front bedroom. And he left the fucking windows open on the room. And he almost fucking froze to death. He fucking woke up at like
Oh no.
1 in the morning, missed all of New Year's and everything. And he's fucking shivering and shit because it's not
Oh
it's
no.
not warm in Albuquerque on New Year's Eve.
No. No.
And
No.
and
That
yes, so we'll joke about that story and shit. Uh, there was another night at the same house where Steve was acting like a jackass, and he gets into all of Mike Prothero's Alka-Seltzers because Mike used to live off Alka-Seltzer. 12-pack of beer or pizza and Alka-Seltzer every day. And,
okay. All right.
and so Steve opens up the Alka-Seltzers and he's breaking them up, and when people aren't looking, he's dropping them in their beers. So they fucking foam up and spill all over the place and shit. So we have beer all over the floor and shit. And fucking
Oh
Prothero
no.
comes home. He's working at Pizza Hut that night, and Prothero comes home and he sees like everybody slipping around in the because the floor was dirty as fuck, just from dirt being tracked in. And so he spilled beer all over. It just turns into mud. So everyone's slipping around out there.
Yeah.
And he's pissed off when he sees all this. Then he finds out what Steve did, and he went through his whole fucking box of Alka-Seltzer just to fucking drop in people's beers when they weren't looking.
Love to record the two of you having a conversation.
Yeah, that could probably be a good time. 'Cause-
That would be a good one. I'll just turn off my camera and just let you talk for however long you
yeah, 'cause we could fucking tell some stupid ass stories. Stupid ass shit like that, or shit like there were some really, really, really dangerously mean people before, like all the Tommy Bottoms and Big Eds and people like that came along. And Steve Island grew up with them. One pair was they're the brothers, and they were just vicious. They both ended up in prison for beating the fuck out of people. And then there's Baron Wells, who's just this giant 6'6" Native American dude who was just scary as shit when he was younger, and a couple others. One of the dudes that we grew up with, or that they grew up with, I only met him a couple of times. His name was Jim Lane, but he ended up becoming one of the biggest porn producers in porn history. He went by Jim Powers, and his production company was called Powers Production, and
Oh goodness.
he was huge in the '90s, and was actually a extra in one of his porns. Like, he'll tell the story when he's on his own, and he'll tell the story that he was in a porn, but he won't get into the specifics that he was
He just wants you to,
he was an
yeah.
extra. And actually, he touched one of the girls on the set, just grabbed her by the arm,
Uh-huh.
and she got freaked out because the only people who can touch each other on a porn set have to have a porn health card,
Huh?
and they get their health card checked up like once a month to make sure none of them have any diseases. And because of that, they're like some of the cleanest people in Southern California,
Yeah.
porn industry workers.
Yeah.
And since he didn't have a porn card and he touched her arm, she got all, this was all hearsay. My other friend Mike Bobroff was there also. But yeah, it's because of Jim Lane. And yeah, he was part of that crowd too. He wasn't a fighter though. Him and Mike Prothero from the Hellcats, they were best friends growing up. And yeah, he ended up,
Somebody told me, to ask someone to find Steve Prothero so he'd give an interview.
Steve or Mike?
Oh, maybe it's Mike.
Yeah, because Mike was the singer for the Hellcats.
Oh,
The
so
Hellcats.
probably was.
They did a stint for about a year and a half in L.A. They played some big shows and shit in L.A. And then they moved back to Albuquerque and played in Albuquerque. And uh, sometime around like 2008, 2009, Rothrow was talking to Fat Mike from NOFX,
Mm-hmm.
and he was saying, "Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
dude, you guys should take us on tour with you sometime," because he knew Fat Mike going back to before NOFX, and they lived together in L.A. And Fat Mike tells Prothero, "Dude, I'll take you guys on tour, but you guys haven't written a new song in 20 years." And it's true, they hadn't. They just been living off the same fucking old glory shit.
Same.
It sort of turned into a party band where everyone knew all the songs by heart. And so everybody
Yeah.
could sit around and all the dudes could put their hands on each other's shoulders and do the fucking
Aw.
can kick as they're singing. Fucking weirdos.
Oh, goodness.
But yeah, but his little brother was Steve Prothero, and
Mm-hmm.
he moved to Dallas and became the fuck are those dudes called? What were those stripper dudes called? They just did a whole series.
Oh, like the Chippendale
Yeah,
guy or the
he
Magic
became a
Mike.
he became a Chippendales dude for like five,
No shit. Really?
6, 7 years. Yeah, yeah, and I remember when Prothero got married, and his little brother Steve was his best man, and Mike got married in kilt. There's this thing. "Oh, I'm getting married in a kilt." Like, okay, whatever.
Okay.
And so his little brother Steve, during that time with Chippendales, he basically lived off of steroids and cocaine.
Okay then.
And he's up there on the stage while they're doing the whole wedding ceremony thing, and he's wearing a kilt, and he's all like Mr. fucking perfect body and perfect tan and shit, and he's got this gross ass mullet, and he was in the Chippendales crowd during that, or the Chippendales team during that whole period that they did
Yeah.
the reality show on. And I always sort of wanted to watch him to
Yikes.
see if he'd show up on there, but I couldn't get through a
Uh-huh.
single episode. I was like, dude, these guys are fucking chill.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
And
No thanks.
Mike used to always make fun of him. But yeah, he would have a bunch of stories about um the Hellcats days. And then like before he left to go to LA, he left in like when he was 18 in like 84. The punk rock scene back then in like 82, 83 was really violent. And it was really small. There was only like 15 or 20 people at a show. And you had to carry your weight and you got pushed around. And the girls were really bad. The girls would just chase other girls off. They wouldn't allow any new girls to come to the show because it was like competition for them. And oh, and that's another person.
Yeah.
That's another person that left Albuquerque and got famous was Jenny Zimmerman. Jenny Zimmerman became a Genitorture. You don't know anything about the Genitortures?
No.
You should write it down and look it up. And if you can get a hold of her,
Okay.
she left early and moved to Florida. She graduated from Sandia Prep, and she was
Mm-hmm.
absolutely gorgeous, and she fucking had like a mohawk that looked like something off of the Punk and Disorderly albums with like leopard spots on the side, and it was like 8 inches high and shit, and just amazing body. And she was dating Kevin Cruikshank from Jerry's Kids back then. But then as soon as she graduated, she moved away. She ended up getting a PhD in something or other. But she started up a band called the Genitorturers, and she did like an on-stage like sex torture type show, sort of like plasmatic sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that
Is this, go ahead.
I was just gonna
It
say
comes to me as you guys tell these stories.
her stage name is Jenny Torture, and the band is
Mm-hmm.
Genitorturers, like genital torture, Genitorturers.
Okay. I'm a little slow. I got it.
And yeah,
It took
uh,
me a minute.
I don't think she would have done shit if she would have stayed in Albuquerque. And the story is that when she comes through, when she would come through Albuquerque to play, like she would scale back her show because her family would be there. But I mean, she had like go-go dancers on stage that were totally nude except for the go-go boots. And
No shit.
and I watched her fuck one of her dancers with a blow pop on stage. And so if that's scaling it back, then
You can imagine what it's like when it's at its height.
yeah. And if I remember, I think she handed that blow pop to some dude out in the crowd.
Not not a surprise either.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Was it?
No, no, no. It knows Jenny real well. I guess she goes by Jen now. But yes, that was back in the old days, and she was one of the chicks that would beat up other girls that showed up to punk rock shows to chase them out because they didn't want no
So
competition.
wait, what was the other violence? I mean, why? I remember punks always fighting, but I don't always remember what started it. What was?
Most of the time, it was like sometimes it would be like personal shit between two people. A lot of the times it was like, oh, I heard you said this about me. Did you say this? And so a lot of it was just fucking testosterone overload. You know, you got teenage kids all in an area with basically no rules. They're making their own rules. Everybody's drinking, and yeah, it just fucking gets aggro, and it's
So,
just what happens.
uh,
You know,
um,
not every punk
when
rock,
you're referring,
huh?
not every punk rock scene is violent.
No, not at all. And hardly any were as bad as Albuquerque was. Albuquerque had a really bad name for itself with touring bands. There are some touring
Because shit
bands.
always happens.
Yeah, there are some touring bands that like it's like I said after the 15 show. They said that no Lookout bands would play in Albuquerque anymore, and they stopped playing there. But like, there's a band DOA from Vancouver, Washington, or Vancouver, Canada. I'm sorry. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and they're my favorite punk rock band going back to when I was 14. And they played a show at the Golden West when that bar manager, owner dude of the Golden West, he wasn't the owner. This chick named Victoria was the owner. She was fucking. There's some stories about her too, but anyways, uh, the dude that I punched, he lost the lease with Victoria, so that DOA show was his last show, and word got out that it was the last show, and the bartenders just abandoned the bar and left the bar at the Golden West open. And that led to people breaking through the door. Well, they keep the door in the
Oh.
Golden West so they could use the lobby of the Golden West for the green room so bands could be back there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, everybody went out.
Mm-hmm.
They broke into the bar in the El Rey Theater, and then they broke into the upstairs bar, and we just ran fucking amok just throughout that whole place. And I was upstairs in the El Rey upstairs bar with this girl that I'd known for years, and she just happened to be back in town. And we were just hanging out, leaning up against the wall, talking and shit. And she'd already thrown up once that night, and so it wasn't like I was mugging on her or anything. But I had a full bottle of Bacardi rum between my legs. And the bar manager dude, I wish I could remember his name. He comes upstairs and he's just looking around, and I can see he just has this totally disappointed look on his face. And I know that he'd already been through the whole rest of the bar, and nobody backed up at all, seeing that the manager was there. Everyone just kept going. We're like, what the fuck are you gonna do? And he goes walking over to see what they did to break into the bar upstairs, and it's used a crowbar to fucking break the shit. And he sees me with Bacardi of rum and between my legs, and I lifted it up and handed it to him like, "Sorry, dude." And he's like, "Fuck it, I don't care." And that was a DOA show.
That was good.
The dudes in DOA were freaking out about what happened that night and how like the whole bar just turned into a frenzy of fucking people getting as much free booze as they could.
It's just Albuquerque for you. You don't know what you're gonna get. Well, you know you're gonna get trouble.
Yeah, um that was a fun show though. And then they played again after that when after Alan and Keith. Keith is the other dude. They had Resin Productions and Resin Records. And Resin Records, that was what Big Damn Crazy Weight and the Drags and Elephant and all that shit, the label they were on. And those were guys who moved to Seattle in the late 80s and then came back to Albuquerque in the early 90s after seeing like the whole music scene blow up in Seattle. And and then they started putting on shows and they had the record label and everything. And so they had the Golden West after that. And DOA played again, and it wasn't that crazy of a deal at that time. But yeah, that was a fun show. Yeah. And then of course there's the story of the Golden West getting burned down intentionally. That was they did that.
That's good. It's all been recorded and documented, and that we've grown up and we don't work at Pizza Hut anymore.
Yeah, and I still every now and then, about once every year or so, get a craving for Pizza Hut for like pan pizza, fried pizza. But
Yeah, I was the one that had to wash all those pizza pans.
yeah, we all did. That was
Oh yeah, you had a story.
the story about the time that I showed up at the company meeting when I was tripping balls because I had to close the night before, and for some reason I didn't have a vehicle. So I was just working in the kitchen. And since I didn't have a vehicle, it was when I lived down at 7th and Mountain on the west side of downtown. I was like, oh, I'll just walk home and, I got a hit of acid and it'll be cool, make the walk home pleasurable, and then take a nap and come back up here for the meeting. And so I take the hit of acid and I'm walking down. Just like stupid shit happens to me, and then the acid finally starts to hit me around the time I get to downtown because I just walk straight down Central. And I get to the plaza, where the waterfall is, and that's when when you're on acid, like all of a sudden you get these epiphanies. And I realized that the whole plaza where the waterfall is a whole bunch of Zias. And I'm just like looking around like, dude, this is a Zia, that's a Zia, there's Zias over here. And then finally I make it home. And by that point I'm just fucking tripping balls. And the acid that we got back then, uh, had some sort of speed type of thing in it, so it gave you a lot of energy. And, I don't know, it might have been from the strychnine in it or something, because there was strychnine in it. But so you had energy, and so the energy hit me, and I just fucking sat in my room and looked at books and shit. Science books are really cool when you're tripping on acid. And I'm just looking at books and shit, and then all of a sudden it's like 8 o'clock, and I got to be at the meeting at 8:30 on Saturday morning. So I drive up there, and I'm just like, dude, fuck, man, I'm tripping balls. So I just stayed off in the corner by myself. There was one other uh, meeting that I'm pretty sure you were there at, because I'm pretty sure it was you that noticed. But I showed up late to the meeting, and I just threw whatever shorts on I had next to my bed and jumped in my car and drove up there. And well, at that time I had this dog that loved to eat my underwear. And I found out that day he also loved to eat the ass out of my shorts. And I walked through the whole crowd of everybody that was standing around to get to the time clock and punch in. And I'm pretty sure that it was you that yelled out, dude, you got no ass in your shorts. And my fucking ass was just hanging out bare. And but
Sorry.
that was a different meeting. But yeah, and so I'm just at this other meeting where I'm tripping balls. I'm just standing back on my own, trying to uh, be incognito. And then the meeting ends, and there was that fucking chick from Kansas. She's an assistant manager named Tammy. And she's like, Richard, do you want to work day shift today? We need somebody to be in charge so we can
Oh
get
no.
up on prep and stuff. And I was like, well, yeah, I can work, but I need to go home to get my work clothes. And she's like, well, I'll give you a ride home. You can get your work clothes. And so we ended up driving like this weird ass roundabout way to get to my house. I started thinking that maybe she was trying to come on to me or something, but I was tripping. So it's like, dude, what the fuck is going on? And then we got into this big old deep discussion about, she's from Kansas. She's some crazy right wing lady from Kansas. And she's talking about how she could never trust anybody who ever did any hard drugs. And I'm just tripping balls, just like going, and I just so wanted to say to her, dude, I'm on LSD right now. And I kept to myself, and we get back. And I ended up having to work the rest of that day, fucking doing all the prep for the dinner, making all the pizzas, all the dough and shit. And yeah, that was my funny Pizza Hut at LSD meeting story.
The manager who needs you to work and handle all the cash and take
Yeah,
care
well,
of most of the business.
she was one like, if anything heavier than what she thought was proper came on the radio, she'd come running over and change the station. So like we
Oh,
couldn't
phooey.
listen to any Sabbath or
Yeah,
Iron
yeah.
Maiden. She had, I won't have any of that acid rock in here. Like, well, it's not really acid rock, but we know what you're bitching about.
Well, whatever. It's over now.
Yeah, and so that's that story. But I
That's
do need
that
to get,
story.
I do need to get going.
All right. Well, you take care. Keep in touch.
Yeah, most definitely.
I'll be talking to
Yeah,
you again. Let me know if there's anyone else you want me to interview.
yeah, definitely. I will. I'll send you a message.
Okay. All right. Take care, Richard. Nice to see you.
Okay, cool. Nice seeing you too. Bye bye.